I was halfway through brushing my teeth when the sharp crunch of footsteps on what snapped me out of my morning haze. A splash followed, then a loud honk, and a woman's voice yammering about needing more sparkling water. Toothbrush dangling from my mouth, I shuffled to the bathroom window and squinted. There she was, Lydia, platinum blonde, sporting a sun hat bigger than a satellite dish, strutting across my dock like it was her personal runway. Her glittery pontoon boat, all flash and no class, was tied up on my private property as if she'd been in VY Ted. I blinked, hoping this was some caffeine-deprived mirage, but no dice. Lydia's voice sliced through the crisp air again, barking into her phone about the Homeowners Association not VYing enough lakefront access. Spitting out toothpaste, I stumbled outside in my faded pajamas, trying to make sense of the circus unfolding on my dock. This wasn't just bold, it was invasion-level audacity. Lydia didn't even glance my way at first. When she finally did, she sized me up like I was a stray cat cluttering her VYEW. "You're my shot, hon," she said, while VYing me off. "Scoot over. I'm posting this." I stood there, dumbfounded, as she angled her phone to capture the sunlight glinting off her sequined swimsuit, posing like she was auditioning for a reality show. I clear my throat. "Ma'am, this is private property." Her smirk was so practiced, it could have been trademarked. "Actually, it's shared lakefront. HOA dues cover this." "You're welcome." She flicked her fingers in a dismissive wave and went back to her selfie session. Let me set the scene. My cabin sits at the end of a gravel road, far from the cookie-cutter mansions of Willow Lake Estates. My grandpa, Henry, built this place before the HOA even existed, plank by plank, with his own hands. The dock Lydia was turning into her personal photo studio, also his handiwork. Our land, our deed, our history untouched by the potlucks and newsletters those HOA folks obsessed over. I tried again, firmer this time. "This isn't public. You need to move your boat." She laughed, a sharp, grating sound. "Then why's your dock so easy to float up to? Don't build stuff people can use if you're going to be so stingy." My jaw clenched. It wasn't just her words, it was the entitlement dripping from them, like she'd already claimed my land as her own. Then I noticed she wasn't alone. A guy in a red tank top was hauling coolers onto the dock, followed by a teenage girl setting up folding chairs and blasting pop music from speaker. My quiet morning was morphing into a full-blown beach bash, and I hadn't been in VY Ted. I asked her to leave again, voice steady but sharp. She lowered her sunglasses just enough to make eye contact. "Take it up with the HOA, hon. I'm VYC president, and this dock faces the community lake. It's public. Good luck." Then she muttered something about hashtags and filters, turning back to her phone. I stormed inside, heart pounding, and dug out Grandpa's old property binder from the closet. Pages of surveys, receipts, and a deed stamped with the county seal confirmed what I knew. The dock, the shore, even 20 feet into the lake hours. A letter from the county exempted us from HOA rules. They had no claim here. By noon, a Comic Sans nightmare of a letter was stuffed in my mailbox, claiming my dock VY OLAT community shoreline ordinances and had to be removed within 30 days. A dock that had stood since the 70s, suddenly a hazard. It was Lydia's power grab, plain and simple. I walked the property to cool off, the lake sparkling under the sun. Her boat still bobbed by my dock, her laughter echoing as she clinked cups with her crew. I'd always thought HOA horror stories were exaggerated, but here was Lydia in the flesh, turning my home into her playground. That evening, her party boat finally left, Leah VYing behind crush cans and chip bags. I stood on the dock, watching the ripples settle. This wasn't just a nuisance site, it was war. The quiet, paper trail kind Grandpa taught me to fight with facts and patience. Because Lydia didn't know it yet, but I didn't just own the dock. I owned the lake. The next morning, I was sipping coffee when tires crunched down my drive. Not the mailman Lydia, in a neon tennis outfit, clipboard in hand, marching to my dock like she was inspecting a crime scene. I stepped outside. "What are you doing?" Her smile was pure condescension. "Routine compliance audit. HOA business." I reminded her my land wasn't under their jurisdiction. She didn't blink. "New rules." Lake-facing properties fall under shared VY Sewell standards. It was gibberish, but she handed me a document saying ridiculous font claiming my dock disrupted the cohesive shoreline aesthetic. An hour later, an email in VY TED me to an emergency HOA meeting. They dug up my contact info, a move that screamed desperation. Ignoring them would only embolden Lydia, so I went. The clubhouse was beige and stuffy, like a retirement home lobby. Lydia sat at the head, name tag, screaming vice chair, tapping her pen like a queen holding court. She listed VY Olation Slough boats, non-standard docks all aimed at me. Then she unveiled a laminated map, the lake outlined in blue, my property relabeled as part of an HOA expansion zone. The dotted lines separating my land from their border? Gone. I raised my hand, barely hiding my smirk. How do you redraw land you don't own? Lydia babbled about satellite updates and shared lake impact. Most of the room nodded along until Tom, a grizzled retiree in a tan cap, stood up. A former surveyor, he calmly dismantled her nonsense, citing deed history and surveyor marks. Lydia's grin faltered as murmurs spread. Someone whispered they didn't recall voting for map changes. Another said my land was never HOA property. Lydia ended the meeting abruptly, heels clicking as she fled. Back home, I dove into Grandpa's binder with new purpose. Tucked in a yellowed envelope was a 1973 grant, sealed with brittle wax. It wasn't just for the land, it gave our family the lake bed and surface rights, signed before the HOA existed. I read it aloud, heart racing. Lydia hadn't just parked on my dock, she'd trespassed on my lake. I called Tom, who came over with his survey kit and a thermos of coffee. He whistled when he saw the grant. "This is rare," he said. "You own the lake bed. Anyone using it without permission is trespassing." We verified the grant at the county office. The clerk pulled a log book, nodded, and handed me a certified copy. Back home, I found another HOA letter taped to my door, threatening to tow my unauthorized dock. Lydia was escalating, clueless that she was poking a bear with a deed. That night, I watched her host a tacky boat party, music blaring, oblivious to the legal hammer about to drop. Tom and I documented everything: photos, videos, trail camera footage of Lydia's husband trashing my new private property signs. Neighbors started whispering. One slipped a note under my door. "You're right. She's gone too far. I'll speak up if you need me." The tide was turning. At the courthouse, I filed for a land ownership confirmation. The deputy registrar re-VYEU'd my documents and nodded. "You own the lake bed. Fully legal." I walked out with a certified copy, feeling untouchable. I nailed up new signs: private property, lake bed owned, trespassers towed. One vanished overnight, pole yanked and tossed into the lake, boot prints in the mud. Tom and I filed a cease and desist against the HOA and a vandalism complaint with the sheriff. Then the county stepped in, flagging the HOA's fake maps. A deputy served Lydia a notice while she lounged on her boat, mimosa in hand. Her face twisted confusion. Then Regia, she screamed and pointed at my cabin. The deputy just shrugged. Lydia called another HOA meeting, spinning the notice as a misunderstanding. But the gossip had spread. Neighbors questioned her authority. 3 board members quit, and talk of dissolving the HOA bust. I didn't attend. I sat on my dock, sipping tea, watching families leave the clubhouse, shaking their heads. A young couple waved as they passed Cedar first. I filed a lawsuit for trespassing, harassment, and property damage, submitting trail camera footage of Lydia's husband destroying my sign. The hearing was quick. Lydia showed up in a pink suit, dragging her nephew as counsel. The judge, sharp and no-nonsense, re-VYEU'd my documents and asked if the HOA had any proof of jurisdiction. The nephew stammered about pending zoning updates. The judge cut him off. "That's not how it works." She ruled in my favor, banning the HOA from my property, fining Lydia, and ordering her to retract her false claims. Lydia tried to argue, but a gavel slam silenced her. Outside, she muttered about appeals, but the damage was done. Neighbors clapped as I drove home. One handed me pie, say it was time someone stood up to her. That night, I sat on the dock, the lake calm, feeling like mine again. I hired a towing company to clear unauthorized boats. Lydia's pontoon, gaudy and oversized, was the last to go. She tried calling it theft, but the sheriff shut her down. I posted laminated lake rules by the dock: no unauthorized mooring, no HOA nonsense. Neighbors waved from kayaks, one shouting thanks. Lydia launched a Free the Lake Facebook page, claiming I'd tricked the county. It backfired. Comments mocked her, and neighbors praised the quieter lake. At a clubhouse meeting, I overheard her yelling about dues for a community dock nobody wanted. The crowd pushed back. The HOA was crumbling. Lydia's final stunt was a lake festival flyer listing my dock as a viewing point. I filed a cease and desist, and the event vanished. Neighbors started calling me Lake Lady, a nod to my fight. A teacher asked to bring students for a nature walk. I said yes. The lake wasn't for hoarding, it was for respect, not control. Weeks later, Lydia's house hit the market. She was gone. The HOA fizzled, its clubhouse bulletin board free of her name. Tom brought sweet tea, and we sat on the dock, talking about how some people mistake control for care. Neighbors changed too. Laura brought scones, grateful for a lake without Lydia's shadow. A man asked if his kids could fish. A couple rented the dock for their wedding, fairy lights glowing under the stars. The dock wasn't just what Anna Marie, it was a symbol of Grandpa's legacy, of fighting with facts, not fists. One evening, a neighbor invited me to a community meeting to share my story. I told it calmly, from Lydia's boat to the courtroom win. They clapped, not for drama, but for truth. Passing Lydia's empty house that night, I felt no Tory, just closure. The lake sparkled under the moon, its peace hard-won. I sat on the dock, tea in hand, listening to the water lap against the planks. The fight was over, but its lessons lingered. Sometimes, standing your ground changes more than just your VYEW. So what do you think? Was I too harsh enforcing my rights? Or did Lydia deserve every bit of the fallout? Should neighbors have stepped in sooner? Or was this my battle to fight alone? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if you're Team Lake Lady, and subscribe for more stories where the underdog bites back. Let's stir up some debate.